Yo, what's going on, kings and queens? It's your boy Chaz Jackson coming back to you once again, representing GNG Gift and a Gift. Hey, I just want to personally take the time to tell you thank you for giving me your eyes and your ears once again as we get ready to dive deep into some inspiration that I pray will plant like a seed in your mind and assist you in becoming a greater version of yourselves. And if you've been listening in on this podcast, GNG live stream, you know that our motto is we're all gifted differently to make a difference. And we have a tremendous difference maker that's going to come on here and share some golden nuggets with each and every one of you. And I know there are so many difference makers that's watching this right now or listening to the replay or listening on the podcast. But I want you to go ahead and drop your comments wherever you are. Let us know that you're there. Share this out to anyone that you feel be able to resonate with this. Parents, coaches, teachers, students, as we get ready to dive into our series, our Summer Soldier series, as our theme is we are equipping young black males on their journey through the battlefield of injustice. And we've been having some phenomenal speakers. We have another one here in Franklin Poe. And before I read off a short bio on this giant, I want to go over to the mission of this platform. This platform is to equip young males on providing tips and techniques for personal development. And I want to challenge you, as well as myself, to take the daily challenge of becoming a passionate visionary who is determined to leave a legacy for themselves by adopting unwavering life values and serving others in the area of gifting led by our Creator God. And I'm so passionate about that, and I want each and every one of you to be passionate with me on that, taking that daily challenge. And let's read off this bio on my man Jerry Franklin Poe, and we're going to introduce him on here. Jerry grew up in Avondale, Pennsylvania. He attended the University of Delaware, where he studied leadership and customer economics. While he was in college, Jerry was introduced to the power of entrepreneurship and got started in business for himself at the age of 21. Through the course of building his business, he became curious about why some people fail while others succeed. Jerry began to study and master the mindset of success, leadership, team building, sales, and marketing. He has researched over 1,000 books and resourced on personal development. As a result, Jerry was able to build an international consulting company. Currently, Jerry owns 4 businesses and has published multiple books. When in the community, Jerry has been a devoted activist of social justice. He has served on the board of MLK Community of the Greater Kennett area and MLK advocates for several years. Jerry has led many forums for cultural proficiency and community policing throughout southern Chester County. As a highly sought out speaker, Jerry has delivered over 4,100 empowering presentations to schools, corporations, and organizations throughout 45 states in the United States, 5 provinces in Canada, and Puerto Rico. I got this giant. He is live on GNG live stream podcast. Are you ready to get it, King Jerry?
Yes, sir. I'm ready, brother.
Is there anything outside of what I just read off you want the audience to know about you? Or did you anything you want to add?
I mean, that was pretty good. I think the only thing that's missing is I'm a father, man. I'm a father, husband. I've been married for 14 years now. I have 2 daughters. One's going to high school next year. One's going to middle school next year. So, other than that, I'm just a regular guy, man. A regular guy out here living life, helping as many people as I can with the time that I have on this planet.
I love it. And obviously, diving in on our theme, equipping young black males on their journey through the battlefield of injustice. So, thinking about everything going on in 2020, what are your thoughts about that? What do you think about the things going on in our country right now?
It's been a fascinating year. When we started this year, 7 months ago, 8 months ago now, I had no idea we would be where we are in terms of all the different aspects that are happening in our country. On a side of social justice, on the side of healthcare, it's crazy where we think about where we started January 1st, New Year's Day, all the excitement, the anticipation, all the things that people were anticipating 2020. You know, it's like, this is going to be that year for me. And then within the first quarter, by the end of the first quarter, the whole thing gets flipped upside down. Country shuts down. We have a virus, death on an unprecedented level, and then the country explodes because for one video of a brother, it was just like, we can't take it anymore. It's just too much. And we're tired of seeing the same thing. It was just people were just got fed up. And I didn't see it coming. I could not have predicted this. And it's just interesting to see where we are, where we're going, and how we handle this over the next course of this year into next year. There's a lot that needs to change, a lot that will change. And I'm just here to help out as much as I can for the folks that are listening to navigate through this jungle of crisis and this opportunity at the same time, because we know that every time there is a setback in the economy, some people prosper while some people don't. We know that when there's unrest, some people are going to profit and some people don't. Some folks are going to see the opportunity here. Some folks are going to see the chaos. And it's just a matter of how we position ourselves and how we set our mindset and how we protect ourselves. Because at the end of the day, all of us watching, we have a life to live. We have a contract to fulfill. We have a purpose for being here on this planet. And we have to decide for ourselves, what are we going to live with? What are we going to live through? And what are we going to stand up for? In my opinion, this time, what's happening right now, it's a perfect storm. And there was a movie that came out, I don't know, probably 10, 20 years ago. It was George Clooney, and it talked about this storm that hit the East Coast in New England. And it was like all these all these weather storms all coming together. So the meteorologists couldn't even predict it. They had never seen anything like this. And it caused a lot of havoc, caused people to lose their lives. And what we're having right now is a perfect storm. And when I talk to people about the situation we have with social justice, part of the social justice explosion is tied to the fact that there was a virus that was hitting our country and shut the country down. Right. People were already on edge. People were already out of work. People were already suffering. People were already going through. And it was like lighter fluid. And someone just lit a match and it exploded. Because you saw people out here getting activated that you didn't see activated before. People who had never been out marching before. They were like, I can't sit back anymore. And it's been fascinating to watch, fascinating to experience, fascinating to process. For myself, you know, I've had to set new standards for myself as to what I'm going to tolerate and who I'm going to associate with. And it's like tired of just pleasing people who really don't have my best interest in mind anymore. You know, for years, it's been get along and go along, right? Get along, go along. And now it's like, man, can't be rolling with you. There's certain key factors that if you don't see this the same way I see it, there's no longer a partnership. There's no longer a relationship. The Bible talks about being unequally yoked. And a lot of times we don't realize how unequally yoked we are with people that we associate with because they're seeing the world totally different than how you see it.
You covered a mouthful there, a lot of jewels, and I'm hoping everybody that's listening got their pen and paper. If you don't got it, go and find it. Just catch the replay because he definitely hit on some key things. And there's two things, and paraphrase a little bit about how you kind of brought everything together, but two things that I took was mindset and relationships. Mindset and relationships, and going through everything with COVID, with the police brutality. And we've been kind of covering this topic a lot through this series and just in general in the world, right? On social media or wherever platform you're viewing from. But when I think about mindset, I think about this. We perform at the level of our beliefs, not the level of our potential. So with all of this is going on, all this emotional baggage is looking to weigh us down. What do we believe? Because our potential can be so high. Our creator, God, he sees us doing phenomenal things, even during what you said, this perfect storm. But how are we crunching through? How is our mindsets? And a lot of that development comes from you being nourished by people. I always say this quote, I feel like relationships are like water. They can either nourish you or they can drown you. And with everything that's going on in 2020, I can't believe it's already August, but there's so much that's going on to where relationships are so drowning, or it can be potentially be drowning as far as your personal development goes, creating a phenomenal life for yourself as far as family or your career, depending on what stage you are in life. So, yeah, mindset and relationships, that was really key, what you said. And I know on your bus stop wisdom, I kind of checked that out. How was that inspired? Was that from your girls, your two girls, Jayla and Layla? Is that kind of?
That's where it started. As a father, and you're a father yourself. I would take my daughters to the bus stop in the morning, and you had to be out there like 5 minutes, 10 minutes before the bus got there. And it's like, well, what do you do with that time? This is the last time that you get a chance to influence their day. This is the last time that I would get a chance to insulate their mind. Or you talk about mindset. So I was looking at how do I insulate their mind and influence their day with these few minutes that we have together before they get on the bus. Because once they leave you as a parent, up to that point before they get to kindergarten, they're with you. They're under your umbrella of protection. Now they're leaving your umbrella of protection, and they have to go out there and interact with people they've never seen before, people who may not have their best interest in mind. So I wanted to help them deal with the challenges of life, the challenges at school, the challenges in building relationships, the things I knew they would encounter in the environment, stuff that we already went through that is going to come up. Even in kindergarten and first grade, there are things that we went through that shaped our perspective on our perception on life. So I decided to take that time and share with them things that I had learned in life. My personal development journey started, I'm 43 now. I was 20 years old when I first got introduced to a book called Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice by Dennis Kimbrough. That was like 1998, something like that. And that put me on a trajectory. It changed the course of my life. I was going one direction. I got introduced to this stuff, and it set me on fire to keep learning more and more and more about how we as human beings work, how we operate, how we think, how we are driven by emotions, and how is that a catalyst based on your thoughts and based on your beliefs, and like how it all ties together. And now that I had these two people, and for me, I didn't look at my children as kids or children. I looked at them as adults in training. So when I see a younger person, I don't see them as just a kid, like, oh, they can't handle stuff. No, in my mind, they're in a probationary period of life. They're an adult in training, right? We are setting them up for where they're going to be in the future. So we have to equip them with as much as we can now, rather than wait till later. Frederick Douglass said it's easier to build a child than repair a broken adult. So my concept for Bus Stop Wisdom was developed out of me just sharing little key nuggets while we waited for the bus. And I just came up with, what do I want to call this? And when I came up with a name, I was like, we're doing Bus Stop Wisdom. That's what we're doing here. And it just evolved. Like I would just come up with stuff. And then whenever I would come up with something, I just kept writing them down. Like, let me just make a list of these things that I'm sharing. I didn't know how I was going to use it. At the time, this was, my daughter's going to high school. So this is when she first started school. So at the time, I had no idea how I was going to use this stuff. I just started, let me write these down, because I thought maybe other parents, maybe other people out there could benefit in the future if I start to, collect these ideas.
Yes, and I bring it up because, audience, if you go follow this man and check out Bus Stop Wisdom, there's a lot of golden nuggets on there, and I know he's going to continue to share a lot of it. But something that I was watching one of your videos, and I believe it was Jalen that you had come on to Bust Out Wisdom, and you did a show. This was pretty recently, and it really resonated with me because you're doing something that I'm working on doing with my oldest daughter Zuri, and it's kind of in the same realm, kind of different concept. But you created 5 cards, right? She talked about you created 5 cards and you wrote an affirmation, and she would read that in the mornings and at night, if I'm saying that correctly. And something similar that I'm doing with Zuri, kind of creating that mindset. But I bring that up to ask you this question. So as far as providing tips and techniques for that young male, if you was to create 5 cards right now for that young black male that's kind of going through that battlefield of injustice, what would be on those 5 cards? Like, as far as affirmations, what would you be inspired to share with that team?
The first thing the young man has to understand is who they are, or who he is. And, one of the things I used to say to myself is I'm an unlimited being. I can create anything I desire. I'm an unlimited being. I can create anything I desire. So you first got to know who you are as a human being, where you came from, where you are going to go. Because if you don't know where you came from, it's hard to predict where you're going to go. And one of the things that has happened to us as a culture is we have experienced identity theft. They stole who we were away from us. They wanted to destroy our connection to our culture in order to make us palatable, make us easy to control, and make us easy to chain up. Because we weren't. People say, well, they were slaves. No, we were not slaves. We were enslaved. And that's a big distinction. So on one of the cards, I would have them say, you are an unlimited being. You can create anything you desire. Another one would possibly be, you're not just a goal setter, you're a goal getter. That we sometimes focus too much on setting the goal and not the actual plan to go out there and get the goal. So once you have the goal, you got to figure out, how am I going to go make this happen? What am I going to do to make this happen? Understand that you are an overcomer. So I am an overcomer. The fact that you are here today, the fact that you are living, breathing on this planet means that you come from a long line, a long history of overcomers. You are the descendants of the enslaved person that would not die.
I love
That's
that.
who we are. That's who we represent. We represent the people that refuse to give in, the people that refuse to give up, the people that refuse to, die through the experience. Like, I'm going to make it one more day because the next day may be better. They didn't know our grandfathers, our grandmothers, they didn't know what our life would be like right now. I'm living the dream of my ancestors. They made sacrifices for me to be able to have the ability to be here on this show with you. They didn't see the vision that I see. Like one of the things that I experienced in my life is having my father come to see me speak. And we talked about it afterwards, and he said to me that he never saw me doing what I'm doing now. It wasn't even a possibility in his mind, because most of the people in my family weren't professional speakers. I don't think I had that many I don't think I had any professional speakers, any authors or performance coaches. That was not a thing that we were taught. So the experiences that we're having now, the experiences that you're having now, experiences of people watching the show, what you're experiencing now, you were living the dream of those that came before us because they didn't have the opportunities that we have. So you're an unlimited being. You can create anything you desire. You're a gold getter, not just a goal setter. That you are the descendants of the enslaved person that would not die. These are the things that we have to start to say to ourselves to help us understand who we are and what we are capable of dealing with. We just lost a couple great men within the last month or so, C.T. Vivian, John Lewis, And when we look at the differences that these people made in their lifetime, to me, it's a challenge to myself to say, well, what am I doing with my opportunity in the midst of their crisis, right? Because they had social justice crisis, like we're going through social justice crisis. It's not like black men had just started dying at the hands of police. It's not like it just didn't just happen. What just happened is we have now all become reporters. Because of technology shifting in our society, all of us have a camera. So now everybody is a reporter. You know, I was thinking, you know, when I was in my teens, hip hop, they would have the brothers on there speaking their reality. And they were being a journalist to what was happening in the hood. Well, they didn't have a digital camera to videotape it and show it, right? The first video we saw of the police brutality was Rodney King. And I was about 13, 14 years old when that happened. Now everybody has and that happened by accident. It happened to be a guy just on his balcony, pulled out his big video camera. Now everybody has a camera in the palm of their hand. So the reason why I bring that up is because what we're experiencing now, folks have already been experiencing this for years. And we've made it through. And that is in us. The fact that we can make it through, that overcomer is in us, is in us. So that's 3 right there. Let me come up with 2 more for the young brothers. I was talking to my dad this morning because we were talking about leadership, and you know what he had taught me based on what his father taught him is that you had to be a follower before you could be a leader. You had to be a good or great follower before you could be a leader. But I challenged my dad on that point. Now that our world is shaping in different ways, some of us don't have examples to follow. So I would tell the young man, you are the leader that you're looking for. So sometimes you have to look at yourself and say, I'm the one that has to bring me out of this situation. I can't always rely on somebody else because there may not be anybody else there to get you. There may not be anybody else there to throw a hand back. Now, sometimes you can find someone, but sometimes you may not. So you have to understand that when you're going through whatever you're going through, at some point you may have to recognize that I am responsible for my life and that I am the leader that I'm looking for. And I have to be the one first in order to free other people up. That I might have to do something that's been unprecedented and unheard of first in order to free other people up. So I am the leader that I am looking for. So when we start to think about who we are, because you said it all starts with the mindset. The mindset is the key to everything. How you think determines how you feel. How you feel determines how you act. So what we have to understand is that the beliefs you have about yourself shape everything else that takes place in your life. And one of the things I did with my daughters is I took them back to Africa. We went to Egypt, to Kemet. Kemet is the name.
Wow, how was that? I would love to do that.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome to see who we are and what we created and what was stolen from us. So what a lot of folks don't realize or haven't been told is that you are a descendant of the brightest, smartest, most intellectual people on the planet. And that's what we have to we remind ourselves, especially our young brothers, is that you were destined for greatness. That it's just that I'm not becoming great. I am great. Because you come from greatness. The greatness is already born into you. So it's not that I'm actually have to go out there and get it. It's already in me. That when you were born, you were born. You talk about a GNG, right? It was greatness inside of you from the beginning. So I am great. When Muhammad Ali said that, he said it before he became the champion. People don't understand. He said, I'm the greatest before he actually won the championship. That's when he started saying it. It wasn't, he didn't wait till he won the championship. He didn't wait till he beat Sonny Liston before he said, I am the greatest. He was saying, I am the greatest before he even got in the ring and took the title away. So when you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror, young man, not even a young man, old man, right? Any man. When you look in the mirror in the morning, what do you see? Because what you say is based on what you see. And when you look at yourself, are you seeing the greatness that's been deposited in you? And sometimes we don't see it. And if you don't see it, then you can't act on it.
Mm. Man, he's bringing the heat. Beast mode. Beast mode. You got me fired up in here, man. You got me fired up. So much gold there. So much gold. And I just got to piggyback on the ancestors. You talked about ancient Kemet going back to 1492. I mean, thinking about being ejected from your land and brought somewhere else is kind of like, you know, being deplugged from your outlet and being trying to be replugged into a foreign outlet and losing all of your values, your interests, your principles, and withstanding that. For me and you to be on this camera right now, only the best of the best could have survived that. And like you're saying, Jerry, we are the best of the best. We come from ancestors who didn't give up. And once we really expand our knowledge, I know on each episode the word education pops up, educating yourself. And I heard the analogy of a slingshot. It's kind of like the further back you go, because a lot of people, you know, they don't want to go to history. They're like, why do I need to know that? Why do I need to know that? This is 2020. Why do I want to go back to the 1500s? Why do I want to go back to 1619, you know, and kind of get a glimpse of when the first slaves was in Virginia, or, you know, and the whole concept behind that slingshot is the further you pull that slingshot back, the further the object that you're shooting is going to go. So the further you can educate yourself and understand where you come from, the better you're going to be moving forward in the future, because you're going to be equipping yourself. And in my book, Live, Learn, Lead Powerfully, I talked about, you know, we have all the tools. The Creator gave us all those tools. We're just refining ourselves. We're gaining clarity on what our bodies, what we functionally can do when we tap into our body, souls, and spirits. You know, our minds and our willpower and our emotions, when we be able to navigate that and be able to self-discipline ourselves to go after our dreams and goals and understand who we are. That is so important. I'm glad you started with that on your first card, because I mean, if we don't get a good glimpse on who we are and what we're capable of doing and who our Creator is, you know, that's going to definitely limit us from outliving that potential that you do have. So that was really good stuff. It was really good stuff. And yeah. I know off the camera you talked about stop the BS. What's the whole mindset behind that?
Part of this explosion that we're experiencing around social justice is that people are tired of the BS. We've had it. We're tired of taking it. We don't want to take it anymore. Like they used to have a song back, I think it was in the 80s, like we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore. So, you know, people hear BS, they might have one thing that comes to mind. What I'm talking about is this bias system. Because a lot of folks who are saying we need to fix a broken system don't recognize the system's not broken. The system is working the way it was intended to work from the beginning when it was created. It was not created. This system was not created to benefit everybody. It was created to benefit a small portion of the population. It didn't include anybody. When they said all, right, all men are created equal, all didn't include everybody, because everybody wasn't invited to the table. Everybody didn't get a chance to vote. Everybody didn't get a chance to sign documents. Everybody didn't get a chance to get educated. It's not just, you know, we tell people like, oh, it's like black or white thing. No, women weren't allowed to vote either. Right. White men that didn't have money weren't allowed. So it was like the system was designed by land owning men, right? And they happened to be white at the time. So if you didn't own property, then you didn't have a say. Which means if you didn't have money, you didn't have a say. So at the end of the day, now we fast forward to 2020, the system is not broken. The system has been biased because it was based on a level of bias from the beginning. Even though the wording may say all and all this other stuff, it might sound inclusive. It wasn't really that way from inception. And we've built on that. We've built on this system that was biased from the beginning. And now we got to figure out, what are we going to do about it? So in my mind, it's like, how do we, since we feel tired of this BS, we feel tired of this biased system, what do we do? What's the BS that we got to now come up with to get rid of the BS that we've been dealing with? And I was thinking to myself, well, what we need to do is we got to be strong. We got to be strong. Now, if you think back, that's not difficult for us based on where we've been, where we've come from, and where we are. Because when you said earlier about pulling the slingshot back, it reminded me of my cordless phone. I have these cordless phones that you walk around the house with, and every once in a while the phone will make a noise. They'd be like beep 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 beep, and I look at the phone. It says go back to the charger. I got to reconnect. Because the phone won't work unless you take it back to the base, right? Because I had this one phone, it got all these different units off of it, but the phone's got to sometimes go back to the base. You got to get reconnected to the source of where you originally came from. And that's how we got disconnected. So if we understand what we've been able to do, what we've been able to create in midst of all the obstacles, when enslavement ended, no one went to therapy. No one was getting any type of counseling for the stress and the disorders and the dysfunction that we all went through. We made it despite of all the stuff that we're going through. So what we now have to do is we got to be strong. And being strong sometimes means that you got to stand up and speak up. When you see stuff happen and you got to stand up, you got to speak up. It's like, I don't want to just deal with this anymore. When John Lewis went across the bridge and he got, almost his head got cracked. He cracked his head open. He had to stand up and he had to speak up. And sometimes standing up and speaking up is going to cost you something. And unfortunately, when we look at ourselves, and I'm not here to judge, and I'm talking to myself too. Sometimes what happens to us is we're not willing to pay the price. We don't want to pay the cost in order to free ourselves up. And for me, what changed for me is when I had children. I didn't take as many risks to stand up and speak up before I had children. And what changed when I had children is like, I didn't want them to go through it. I really started to get more tired of I was already tired of the BS for me. But then when I have my daughters going through it, it's like, oh, I'm really tired of BS. Because a lot of us will do more. We'll do more for our children than we'll do for ourselves. So I had to start my involvement in activities around social justice, even in my local area, all came about of me standing up and speaking up because I had to be strong for my children so they wouldn't have to go through all the same stuff that I went through. I wanted to just like, we got to start ending this cycle, right? And, the Bible talks about, it says, be strong in the Lord and the power of his might. So endurance is what we have. We've been built to endure. We've been built to sustain a lot of punishment. So when you think like, man, I don't want to put up with this. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to, stand up and speak up, because we have, as you said earlier, we stand on the shoulders of giants, but you now are the giant for other people to stand on. So be strong. That's one of the BS concepts that I've been promoting. Like, at this time of our lives, especially this year, 2020, we got to be strong, but we also got to be strategic. And being strategic means that you got to know when to pick your battles. You got to know when it's time to fight and when it's not time to fight. You have to know how to fight. You have to know when to fight. And I like to say, for me, I don't play checkers. I play chess. Chess is all about strategy, thinking 4 or 5 moves ahead. So not only we got to be strong, but we got to know when to use our strength. Because there were times, especially a lot of times when you talk about going back, a lot of people who want to stand up, speak up, become activists, they don't spend a lot of time studying the strategies that were being deployed in the era of these great leaders that we always talk about: Martin Luther King, John Lewis, C.T. Vivian, Ralph Abernathy, Stokely Carmichael. We can go down the list. The women that, as well, that were involved. Diane Nash, all these folks that were, the Black Panther Party, Malcolm X, all these folks. There were specific strategies. They were attacking things from all different angles. They had multiple organizations. We get this idea we have to have one leader, but they had CORE, NAACP, the Urban League, SNCC, SCLC. They had multiple organizations fighting things from all different angles in order to solve the problems. So we have to look at how are we being strategic when we're standing up and speaking up. And then ultimately we got to understand that sometimes BS is just, you got to be safe. You got to maintain your physical and mental health. When I stated earlier, when enslavement ended, they didn't do anything for us. No one got counseling. No one got help to deal with all the trauma, physical trauma, sexual trauma, all this stuff that we endured. And it has been encoded in our DNA and has been passed on from generation to generation. There's a book that I read called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And it talked about the things that we have indoctrinated into our culture that were really just remnants of the abuse we took in the enslavement process. So through this crisis, we're seeing all these videos. I just saw a video the other day of a family being taken out the car and handcuffed because they thought their car was stolen. They were looking for a motorcycle and they're in an SUV. So we see this stuff, and it's like all it does is reinforce the trauma. So sometimes we gotta turn off the video because it may not be the right time for you to watch it. You may have watched too many videos that day. You got to think about your physical health, your mental health. We got to think about all the things. The reason why COVID is hitting us so hard in our community is that physically we haven't been taking care of ourselves for years. Part of our diet has been extracted from the fact that we had to eat scraps in order to survive during the enslavement. And then we call it soul food, right? But I'm not saying you shouldn't eat this or you shouldn't eat that. All I'm saying is that we have to be strong, be strategic, and be safe and take care of ourselves because, this is the only body you have. This is the only mind you have. And in order for us to make it through, in order for us to get to the other side, we have to make sure that we're hitting on all cylinders.
I know you mentioned that soul food, man. You're making me hungry, man. My chitlins, man. I got to eat those every holiday. You can't eat them every day. I know that.
Yeah, you can't. There's always portion control is critical, right? You can have a little bit here and there, right? I'm not giving up cornbread.
Yeah, cornbread, pinchos,
Yeah, no, I'm not. But I'm you got to do it in moderation. Right?
Yeah, most definitely. And gosh, man, you cover so much stuff. And I know even you kind of going from the entrepreneur standpoint, I feel like one of the biggest biases is economics. I know I read somewhere where, us as African Americans, we own, below 3% of the economy in the United States. And when thinking of that mindset of how more Black-owned businesses can be created, as far as that young Black male looking at you right now, is there one tip or technique that just comes to mind to kind of get them to think and then kind of challenge them to take that daily challenge of trying to change that percentage of that from an economic standpoint of going out there owning more stuff instead of being employed in that 9-to-5?
Yeah, great question. And this ties back to your theme that we are gifted, but we're gifted differently, which means you were born to solve certain problems. And businesses are created out of providing services or products that solve a problem or eliminate a need. So what do you see in the world that bothers you? And if something is bothering you and it keeps triggering something inside you, like every time you see it, like, man, this really bothers me. It just bothers me and bugs you and it bugs you and it bugs you. That's probably the problem that you were called to solve. So now the question is, what business can you build around solving that problem? What solution can you offer? What product can you create to solve the problem that is bothering you? And then you got to get good at knowing how to sell, or I would say articulate the value of that thing that you're providing and you're creating. And when we think about conversations, we may not be having these conversations all the time within the communities that we've grown up with. I know when I was growing up, I didn't have people in my family that were teaching me how to sell. And a lot of times I would hear from people that, you know, they didn't like sales, or sales were bad, or salesmen were bad, right? But if you want to participate in this economy and you want to take advantage of this capitalistic system that we live in, at some point you're going to have to learn how to market yourself and how to sell a product or service. How do you market what you can do, and how do you now sell that product or service to other people? How do you create a brand for yourself? How do you market that brand? So one of my mentors told me, and this was when I was in my early 20s, he said, if you can master marketing and sales, if you can master marketing and sales, you can create your own paycheck. Because everything that happens in our world is all based on those who are great marketers and those who are great salespeople. So the question you got to ask yourself, young man, is what problem can I solve in this world? What solution can I offer? What is it that I could create that eliminates a problem or a need that someone's having in their life? Because everything that has ever been created that people are using right now has come out of either a problem that already existed or a problem that was about to come. You know, some of the technology that we have, those technologies that we're using and that we go out and line up for in the stores to get, they were solving problems that people sometimes didn't even know they had. So what problem do you see coming up in the future? What problems do you think people are going to be experiencing 5 years from now? You know, as our world is shifting, like right now our world is shifting, people are social distancing. So what problems is that going to create for businesses? How are people going to now be functioning in this virtual space? So you have to be looking at the trends and seeing what problems are these going to be creating for people, and how can I build something, create something, offer something that will tie right into where the wave is going.
That is gold. Finding that problem and creating a solution for that problem. And it made me just think about, you know, one of the things that I share in some of my talks is, you know, one of the three things that help facilitate success is getting really clear, getting focused, and consistency. And when I'm thinking about going after that ideal problem and manifesting it and creating that solution, just getting really clear on what you're doing, staying focused, and being consistent on, you know, whatever that passion is, and really tying all that to your why. I know you said earlier how, you know, your girls help transition your mindset on everything as far as, you know, your business, family, the way that you're looking out on life. So I truly believe that's important, and you really hit on some good things, and just getting quiet also, isolating yourself, getting quiet, and really discovering, you know, what God is laying on your heart. Because, you know, scripture says many plans are in a man's heart, but God's counsel will prevail. So his counsel will prevail. So discovering that problem, and God would definitely manifest you in whatever avenue he sees fit, for sure. I truly believe that. And so much gold. I know each and every one of you, whoever paused and got that pen and paper, you're thanking me right now. If you haven't, you know, if you're just now tuning in, please go back to the beginning of this, because Franklin Poe gave some amazing value. And I know there is somebody that's looking at you right now, Jerry, and they're saying, wow, this is a powerful brother. I want to connect with him more. Can you share some of your contact information if someone wants to reach out to you and just fellowship or get your help on, you know, as far as personal growth goes, or just this conversation, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem. I mean, you can follow me on any of the social media platforms. If you go, it's at Jerry Poe. So Facebook at Jerry Poe, Instagram at Jerry Poe, Twitter at Jerry Poe. Also, you can go to my website, jerrypoe.com. If you want to contact me via email, it's beinspired@jerrypoe.com. Beinspired@jerrypoe.com. So reach out. If there's something I can do to help you in your journey, help you along the way, send me a message. You can send me an email, send me a Facebook message, you know, Twitter, Instagram, private message. I'm here to help out as many young brothers as I can with the time that I have on the planet, which is why I wrote the books that I did. You know, I wrote my first book about what I did in college to, you know, messed up, all the mistakes. I wrote a book about that. Then were all the mistakes I made in high school. So, you know, JerryPoeBooks.com, you can see those books there, JerryPoeBooks.com. And that whole purpose was to help the next generation. You know, you take it with you, it's not going to do any benefit in the grave. So I wanted to make sure that when I left, that I could still live on, because my words are on paper, my words are recorded, and those who pick them up, those who pick up those books, you know, anyone who picks up those books, right, they would be able to still hear me, even though I'm not even here anymore. And so, yeah, any social media platform is at Jerry Poe, and they can find me Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those places.
Boom, boom, boom. Amazing. I love it, Jerry. And I tell you, you know, we cannot control the day that we was born. And a lot of times, you know, a high percentage that you don't control when you leave this earth. But that dash in the middle, you can't control. And Jerry, I swear, in a short period of time, researching about you, learning about you, having conversations with you, I know you are definitely taking advantage of that dash. The dash. You are living your dash. My man Jesse Cruz has a book out called Live Your Dash. Definitely something that's a phenomenal read, and I'm looking forward to reading that. But for some reason, the dash, I feel like you've done so much in your lifetime as far as inspiring young people, corporations, organizations. And I know, you know, throughout this turmoil, you're taking the detour route with us being, you know, isolated in some sorts, and, you know, going on the whole aspect of recreating ourselves with what's all going on in 2020. But you're taking that detour tour, you're learning things, and you're still going to be phenomenal in everything that you do. I'm sure there's more books you're going to be writing, a lot more people you're going to be inspiring. You definitely inspired me with your words and your wisdom. I definitely look forward to continue to build a relationship with you. And gosh, I just wish you all the best. And thank you so much for being on GNG Live Stream Podcast. And gosh, man, anything I can personally do to assist you in any way, know I'm here. And yeah, I look forward to connecting with you more, brother.
I appreciate it, man. I'm just honored to be here. Thank you for sharing the space with me and allow me to, you know, have this time with your audience. And I definitely look forward to the relationship that we build moving forward. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I'm going to lead us out real quick, Jerry. I want each and every one of you to stay up with GNG. Each and every time we come on, I tell you to get that pen and paper. Jerry brought it. Definitely let us know you was there. Check out that replay. And I want you guys to remember these couple things. Keep those crowns on your hearts. And remember, we are God's echo. I love each and every one of you. Peace.